Hi, this is Purple Bunny. I just wanted to make a little mini series about relationships. Haven't been in many myself, honestly, but I've learned enough to know of what's right and wrong. I've only ever dated two guys, but I've actually had a few interactions with some guys. Maybe a crush, maybe someone you just like, you're infatuated with. Doesn't mean you can't learn something from it. And this first story is gonna be about, let's call him Nice Guy. When I first met him, we were in middle school. We were probably in 7th or 8th grade. Just like everyone else you meet, everyone's going through hormones, everyone's going through changes, everyone's weird, nobody really knows what's going on. He and I were no exception. Though our first interaction wasn't the best. I was a little bit of rough and tough and girl. You can call me that now. But back then I was a bit of a tough kid. I didn't like people who spoke behind other people's back. I didn't like people who were rude to someone without getting to know them. And when I met him, I was being nice and sweet, and I offered him a muffin that I made. And the thing was, as soon as I turned around and went to my group of friends, some of my friends told me that he threw the muffin away, and he thought I was weird and called me a weirdo. Normally I would let that slide, but he just wasted food, which isn't cool, honestly. And I get it, it's weird. But moving on, after that interaction, I found out we had the same class. And he eventually apologized, and I apologized as well, after finding out he was framed by his friend and saying I picked it up from the ground and gave it to him. I forgave him, and I apologized that I didn't do that. I was just being nice and giving him a muffin. Eventually, we started becoming closer as friends, and he started telling me about his life and how a lot of things were going wrong in his household. Around that time, I was going through some things personally as well, so I thought I had someone to relate to. I thought me and him were one of the same. I thought this was someone I could trust. So we started becoming friends. I listened to his problems, he would listen to mine. We would talk back in the day on Facebook and MySpace. Or more or less on MySpace we would talk. I hadn't had an iPhone or even an iPod yet, but we were just talking as friends. And the more I got to know him, the more I realized I related to him, and coming in a household that wasn't the best at the time. So I wanted to be someone that could be there for him, since he was someone who was listening to my problems in my life. And that's where I made the mistake. He saw someone who was just being vulnerable and decided to play his cards right. And some of you might be thinking, oh, maybe I'm over speculating. Maybe he just didn't have those attentions. But the thing was, that's what I thought for a very long time. I thought he was just someone that was trying to be nice to me, who was trying to get to know me. But sometimes things aren't always what they seem, and sometimes your gut feeling is actually right. But I chose not to see it. I chose to be blind and be oblivious to it all. And I thought, maybe he's someone I could relate to and get to know. So I ended up in a relationship with this guy, this so-called nice guy. After a while, he started calling me names. He called me a prude. He called me a weirdo. He started calling me these things after a while through text, in person, and I eventually started believing these things. It was very hurtful to me, honestly, and I didn't know what to do. I thought it was my fault that all this was happening. Maybe if I would have not upset him, He wouldn't be telling me I'm a nobody, I'm overreacting, that I should be grateful, that no one would ever want to be with me because of the way I am. And I should be happy that he decided to be with me. And for almost 2 years, I believed that. Because I thought I was worthless. He brought me down. He told me all these rude things. And in all honesty, I started to believe it. I dropped the things that I liked. I loved art. I stopped doing that. I loved cartoon shows, and he made fun of that about me. And I stopped watching them. I started trying to become the cookie cutter girl he wanted me to be. And I was miserable. His family didn't even like me. I thought he could do so much better than me. And it hurt my feelings, since he didn't disagree with them. I should have seen the red flags, but unfortunately, when you really care for someone, you take all the bad and try to over-rationalize everything. But at some points, what can you do? Honestly. Eventually, I started apologizing more, changing for him. Every time we would fight, like, constantly, every week. It would be a fight every day. I wouldn't know what would upset him one day, would make him laugh another. He would twist the story to make it seem like I was the one that did the wrong. Even if I made him upset, he would be like, "Why are you upset? I'm the one who should be upset here." And I would be apologizing, even though he was the one that upset me by calling me these names, by telling me that I was ugly, that I wasn't beautiful, that I was worthless. He brought me so down, and I didn't even realize that what he actually became, which was a jerk. He was an ass, and I let it happen, and I don't know why, but eventually I had to either realize that either I was always going to be the one in the wrong, or I was never going to get out. Eventually, when it came to our 2-year anniversary, he said he had to go visit family, which was fine. I honestly loved his little sisters, even though his family didn't like me. It was fine. I understood it. So, after one of our recent fights, he said he was going to go visit relatives, and I just told him okay. And he was upset that I was just letting him go to go visit family. I mean, I'm not going to stand in the way of you visiting your family for the weekend, or even just for the holidays. But be it as may, apparently it was my fault that we were having these problems, so he wanted some time apart. And in that time, I decided to focus on myself for a little bit. Though discovering on social media was something I didn't expect to see. I found out he had been cheating on me. I know, a little shocking to say the least. He had tried accusing me multiple times of cheating. But ironically, I was always working when I told him I was, to his surprise, and I kept telling him I was. And the only way I found out that he was being unfaithful to me as a partner was he accidentally left his login on my phone for his Facebook account. Normally I wouldn't snoop, but my sister decided to, because she knew how he was treating me, but knew that if something were to happen, my parents would get all upset at me and my sister for not saying anything, and I thought it was my responsibility to figure it out, how to get out of this relationship. If you're ever in a spot where you think you can't leave because someone's gonna say they're gonna kill themselves, you're the reason that they're living, honestly, get help. You're never supposed to feel like that in a relationship. He's told me multiple times when I tried to break it off in the past, before I found out about him cheating, that he was gonna kill himself, I was gonna be my fault, and how I was gonna get arrested for all of this. And that was the main reason why I stayed. But the minute I found out he cheated on me, I knew that was the one chance I had to break out of the relationship. So I did. But I was very damaged when I got out. I had no self-esteem. I had very low expectations for myself. And honestly, I was in denial of a lot of the things that he did and the things he pressured me to do, which I didn't want to do. But I was just in denial because I didn't think someone who was a tough little girl back then could be taken advantage of, as he never physically touched me, to say the least. He only emotionally touched me. So what's the difference? There's nothing. He never left any scars, never left anything, but the emotional damage was there. And unfortunately, it took a while for me to learn that it was never my fault for what happened in that relationship. Even after we broke up, he was still trying to be a bit of a toxic person, so I eventually had to cut him out of my life. But it was the best thing I needed to do for me, to let myself heal and recover from all the emotional abuse that he put me through in 2 years. It may not seem like a lot to some people, but being put down constantly day in and day out and being told what is your worth as a person, that's something hard to deal with, especially if it's coming from someone that you're supposed to trust, and if it's your first relationship, it's pretty hard, I can't deny. It's probably been 4 or 5 years since this has happened. I've seen him around, and honestly, I still get angry, but I don't even bother talking to him because he doesn't deserve my time. He doesn't deserve the affection and everything I gave him as a person. And I wish, if I could tell myself anything, that I have always had the option to leave, and I shouldn't have been scared to tell someone. And that's probably the only thing I do regret at the moment. And I regret not listening to my instincts earlier, in all honesty. But unfortunately, sometimes these lessons happen to the best of us. And I want everyone to know, there's always a way out. Never think you're trapped. And if you think there's something wrong, let someone know. Try to talk to someone. Reach out. Or else, if I didn't reach out, who knows where I would have been now? I would have been so much more depressed than I was when I first started that relationship. But all these things had happened. But unfortunately, I didn't think it would ever happen to me. But yeah. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.